Hello everyone and welcome to the biology lecture series, and today we'll be discussing the practice problems that are related to the topic control and coordination. So in the previous lecture we have studied about the coordination, control and coordination in plants as well as in the animals. So we studied about the movements in the plant, how the plants move, and we also talked about the different kind of stimulus. Now after that we studied about the phytohormones and their functions. And then we talked about the control and coordination in animals, where we studied about the nervous system as well in the grasshopper, hydra, as well as in the complex organisms such as humans. Okay, so we studied about the nerves and the nervous system and the neurons, which are the functional and structure unit of the nervous system. And then we also studied about the central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, as well as the autonomous nervous system. So in this session, we'll be solving some of the objective type questions which are related to these topics. So let's start with the first question here. So the first question is, the effect of daily light period on flowering is called. Let's have a look at the options. First option is photooxidation. Second option is phototropism. Third option is photoperiodism, and fourth option is photorespiration. Clear? Now, let's discuss each of these. So what is photooxidation? So photooxidation is nothing but oxidation in the presence of the light. Okay, so at very high light intensity. So this photooxidation takes place at very high light intensity. Clear? At very high light intensity. Okay, so these high light intensity carry a lot of energy, and because of energy the molecules are excited. Okay, and what happens? Lot of reactive oxygen species are liberated that damage the system. Okay, at very high light intensity chlorophyll molecule also gets damaged. Clear? This is known as photooxidation. Now phototropism. Phototropism is the movement of the plant. Okay, movement of the plant in response to the sunlight. This is known as phototropism. So photo means light and tropism means movement. Okay, so this is phototropism. Now let's talk about photoperiodism. Okay, so how can we define photoperiodism? It is the biological response of the plant in response to the sunlight, in response to the relative length of day and night. Okay, in response to relative length of day and night. Okay, now this relative length of day and night, this is known as the photoperiod. Okay, this is known as the photoperiod. Okay, so some of the responses that are controlled or that come under the phototropism are responses such as flowering. All right, so photoperiodism is nothing but it is the biological response shown by the plant in response to the relative length of day and night. So the question was effect of daylight period. Okay, daylight period means day length. Clear? So here you can see phototropism is the response of the plant to relative length. Okay, you can say the daylight period. Okay, so option C should be the correct answer here. And last is the photorespiration. What is photorespiration? Okay, so this photorespiration, it occurs in the plant. Okay, especially which kind of plant? C3 plants. And here what happens? So there is an enzyme known as rubisco, which is involved in the carbon dioxide fixation. So it has two activities. First is the oxygenase activity, and second is the carboxylase activity. So what happens during the high oxygen to carbon dioxide ratio, or when the oxygen is present in the environment in very high concentration? So due to high oxygen to carbon dioxide ratio, the rubisco enzyme will bind to the oxygen. Okay, and it will undergo the phenomena of photorespiration. All right, this is clear. So photorespiration is due to the oxygenase activity of the enzyme rubisco. And normally what happens when the carbon dioxide amount is higher in the environment, then what will happen? Rubisco will show the carboxylase activity, means it will bind to the carbon dioxide, and then it will undergo photosynthesis. Clear? So what should be the answer here? Answer should be photoperiodism. Clear? Now let's move on to the next question. The brainstem is formed by the union of, let's have a look at the options. Option 1 is optic lobe. Option C is cerebellum. Option C is corpora striata. Option D is midbrain, pons, varoli, as well as the medulla oblongata. So this is a straightforward question. Answer to this question is option D, midbrain, pons, varoli, as well as the medulla oblongata. Now what is the explanation? Now the brain stem situated at the back of the brain. Okay, it extends to become the spinal cord. Now comprised of the medulla oblongata, pons, and the midbrain, it oversees the transmission of the messages and manages the vital function such as the cardiac and the respiratory activities. Clear? Now let's move on to the next question. Now this is again a straightforward question. Number of spinal nerves in the man are, or in the human are, the spinal nerves. What are the spinal nerves? So they arise from the spinal cord, and they help in both the motor as well as the sensory function. Okay, so they carry out both the, you can say, receptor function as well as the effector function as well. Okay, so let's have a look at the options. Options are 11 pairs, 13 pairs, 6 pairs, and 31 pairs. So answer is 31 pairs. And what is the explanation? Now, what are spinal nerves first? So spinal nerves, they refer to the nerves that emerge from the spinal cord, and they extend throughout the body, transmitting the sensory information to the central nervous system. And central nervous system, we know it is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. It is made up of the brain and the spinal cord, and conveying motor commands from the brain to the muscles. Okay, so it is doing two functions here. First, the spinal nerve, they are transmitting, okay, the signals or the information or the stimulus from the sensory receptors, you can say, to the central nervous system. And then from the central nervous system, it is again sending the information or the motor information from the central nervous system to the effector organs. Okay, effector organs can be muscles or these glands. Clear? Now let's talk about the next question. Third ventricle occurs in, and the options are cerebrum, cerebellum, medulla oblongata, and diencephalon. Now the correct answer is option number D, diencephalon. So the third ventricle is the narrow vertical cavity of the diencephalon. So this is the correct answer here, diencephalon. Now, let's talk about the next question. The pineal body is considered as, let's have a look at the options. Option number 1 is an endocrine gland, an organ concerned with the voluntary actions. Option number C, an organ concerned with the vision. And option number D is a vestige of third eye and the endocrine gland. Now let's have a look at the answer here. So option number D is the correct answer here. It is a vestige of the third eye and it is also an endocrine gland. Okay, so when we are studying about the endocrine gland, I've told you the various endocrine glands that are present in the endocrine system. So pineal gland is also a kind of endocrine gland. Now, pineal gland is located in the diencephalon, positioned behind the anterior choroid plexus and between the area of the eyebrows, okay, which is historically regarded as the third eye in the ancient cultures. That's why it is known as the vestige of the third eye. Okay, now what it also acts as an endocrine gland, okay, and it releases hormones such as melatonin and serotonin. So melatonin is also known as the sleep inducing hormone, or you can say sleep hormone, means it induces sleep. Serotonin also, it helps in the sleeping as well, and it has some other functions as well. Okay, now so this is the answer, vestige of the third eye as well as the endocrine gland. The next question is part of the brain involved in interpretation, storage of information and initiation of the response on the basis of past experience. So this also we have talked about. Okay, so these are known as the conditional or acquired reflexes. Okay, now part of the brain we have to tell which is the part of the brain that is involved in the this initiation of the response on the basis of past experience. Options are motor area, option B is cerebellum, option C is sensory area, and option D is association area. Now let's have a look at the answer here. The answer is option number D, association area. Alright, now what is the explanation here? The association areas of the brain are predominantly found within the parietal, occipital as well as the temporal lobes. So you know cerebellum, it is divided into 4 lobes: parietal, occipital, temporal. Alright, this is clear. So these are the lobes: parietal, occipital, temporal lobe. Alright, one is the olfactory lobe. Now these regions are responsible for integrating sensory information and storing it. They are also known as the known for eliciting similar responses in comparable situations and frequently influence language processing and complex thinking patterns. Okay, this is clear. Now let's move on to the next question. So the autonomic nervous system, we have talked about this autonomous nervous system. Okay, so it is further divided into parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, and we have already talked about this, that these control the involuntary actions, and the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, they have antagonistic functions. So one is stimulating, other one is inhibiting. Clear? Now let's have a look at the options here. So option number A is reflex action, option number B is sense organs, option number C is internal organ, and option number 4 is skeletal muscles. So what should be the answer here? Answer is option number C, internal organs. So the autonomic nervous system, which is the division of the peripheral nervous system. So the nervous system basically comprises of 2 nervous systems, central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So if we talk about the nervous system, the first one is the peripheral central nervous system. Okay, another one is the peripheral nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system, it is a, you can say, part or the division of the peripheral nervous system. Okay, so the autonomic nervous system, also known as the autonomous nervous system, it is a division of the peripheral nervous system which oversees the involuntary activities. Okay, involuntary activities are those activities that are not under our control. These activities can be heart rate, blood pressure, okay, heart as well as the respiration rate and the digestion. So all these activities, these are controlled by the autonomous nervous system, which is the division of peripheral nervous system. So option number C is the correct answer here. So heart is an internal organ. You can see, okay, in digestion also there are a lot of organs involved. Clear? Now next question. The study of the nervous system and its disorders is called, what are the options? Neurogenesis, hematology, neuroglia and neurology. Now first let's discuss about the neurogenesis. So what is neurogenesis? It is the formation of or the generation of neurons in the brain. Okay, formation of new neurons in the brain. This is known as neurogenesis. Now what is hematology? So hematology is the study of blood and blood disorders. Okay, this is clear. Then neuroglia. Neuroglia, we have already talked about this. So it is a cluster of the nerve cells or the neuron. And what were the functions of the neuroglia? First function was it has the supportive role. So it supports the neurons in the nervous system. Okay, and neuroglia, this also helps in the transmission of the nerve impulses. Okay, it also carries nutrients across the axons or the nerve fibers. All right, so these are some of the roles of the neuroglia. Okay, most important role is the supportive role. Clear? Now next is the neurology. So neurology is a study of nervous system and its disorder. So what should be the answer here? Answer is neurology. Okay. Now next question is, in reflex action, the reflex arc is formed by, options are brain, spinal cord and muscles. Option number B is receptor, spinal cord and muscles. Option number C is muscles, receptor and brain. And option number D is muscles, spinal cord and the receptor. So what happens in the reflex action? Here you have the sensory receptor. So first of all, there is a receptor which is present on where? Which can be present beneath the skin, on the skin, in the skin, and or you can say it is present on the body surface. So these receptors, they will encounter us if they encounter a stimulus. Stimulus can be anything. All right, it can be change in temperature, or you can say whenever a hot object touch your fingers, okay, or touch your hand, then that is a stimulus. Stimulus, we can write some kind of a hot object such as burning candle. Okay, so now this stimulus is perceived by these receptors which are present on the body surface. Then what happens? These stimulus or this information is transmitted with the help of the sensory neuron. Here we have the sensory neuron, or this, okay, also known as the afferent neuron. This is also known as the afferent neuron. Okay, So here the information or the stimulus is then transferred to the spinal cord here. So we can draw spinal cord here. So this is this. Suppose this is a spinal cord. All right. And then what happens? This information is processed here. So here processing is done. Processing of this information is done. And then what happens? From here, another neuron will arise from the spinal cord, which is known as the motor neuron, also known as efferent neuron. Clear? So this neuron will transfer the motor information from the spinal cord towards the effector, organ. So these effector organ can be muscles or glands. Okay, and then finally the response is generated, and then you remove the hand from this hot object. So this is what is happening. So option number B should be the correct answer. First we have the receptor which receives the stimulus, then the processing is done in the spinal cord, and then the motor information is transferred from the spinal cord to the muscles. So here muscles are the effector organ. So this shows you the reflex action, how a reflex action is generated, and these arrows show you the reflex arc. All right, and both these neurons, sensory neurons and efferent neurons, they are joined by another neuron. So here is this neuron. This is known as the interneuron. So this is clear. So what should be the answer here? Receptor, spinal cord, and then muscles. This is the correct answer. The next question is, the sensation of the sight in human brain is perceived by, let's have a look at the options: optic lobe, occipital lobe, frontal lobe, and the parietal lobe. So answer is option number B here, occipital lobe. The occipital lobe is involved in the perception of the sight. Okay. Now let's have a look at the explanation. Now the cerebellum, I've told you, it consists of 4 lobes. All right. Let's talk about the occipital lobe. So one is occipital lobe, another one is the frontal lobe, then we have the parietal lobe, and we have the temporal lobe as well. Okay. So the occipital lobe, it specializes in processing the visual sensation and sight due to the optic nerve, which transmits signals from the retina to the eye. Okay. This is clear. So this is the role of the occipital lobe. That's why correct answer is the occipital lobe and not optic lobe. Clear? Now next is frontal lobe. So frontal lobe, this is dedicated to analyzing the voluntary muscle movement. Okay, so movement can be involuntary as well as voluntary. So the frontal lobe, it helps in analyzing the voluntary muscle movement. Next is the parietal lobe. So parietal lobe, it handles the sensations such as the pain, temperature, as well as the pressure. Okay, so now you know why the answer was occipital lobe. Clear? Now these were the end of these questions. All right, hope now you can answer all the questions that are related to the topics that we have studied. Okay, we'll meet again in the next session. Thank you very much for listening.